Okay. Everyone, latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast brought to you by Gate City Bank. And as we get ready to go on a football game on the first weekend in May, normally reserved for the Kentucky Derby, FCS quarterfinals will preempt that. Of course, it is the weekend of the NFL draft. We're taping this the day after Trey Lance was selected with the third overall pick by the San Francisco 49ers, joining a franchise as quarterbacks, namely like Joe Montana and Steve Young, and now Trey Lance is among that fraternity. Were you surprised, my friend, when you heard Roger Goodell say that last night?
Mildly surprised, because you know what I did, Dom? I fell for it. I trusted all these Mel Kipers of the world that, had the inside information and the scoop, and we knew the 49ers were going to go after Mac Jones. We know that. I got some intel on that. So you kind of go with that thought. And boy, were they wrong. They got played like a fiddle, like I twisted last night, because whoever of the 49ers was feeding them some information that they were all over Mac Jones.
Right.
I don't know why they needed to do that, if that's indeed what they did, because the first two picks were a formality. It's
Correct.
not like there was this cloak and dagger thing going on with the first two picks, and we gotta keep our third pick a secret and not leak anything out. Well, they did leak something out. It was the wrong information, but they did leak something out. So that was bizarre for me. I'm just, was I surprised? Yeah, I guess just because of that nature of the, you trust these guys who made millions of dollars a living, a year for whatever for living, and for providing the viewing public of the draft, mock draft order.
Yeah.
And Kiper was 4 of 7 in the first 7, and with 3 gimmies. He wasn't very accurate.
Did you not do I thought you did an interview with a San Francisco radio station. Did you not, before the draft?
I did.
And what did they ask you on that? And what was what were their mindset there on Trey?
They weren't sure. They wanted to know more about Trey and his background and what kind of a guy he was, what kind of offense NDSU runs and all that stuff. And, I pointed him in the direction of Randy Hedberg, that it's Hedberg who has really been the common denominator with all these quarterbacks. That's an easy thing to say, but people in San Francisco don't know that. They don't know that he mentored Carson Wentz and took him to the next level. They really don't know that Easton Stick was a Randy Hedberg project. Look at the strides Stick made from his freshman to senior year. I mean, when he got in right away, when he took over for Wentz, they really didn't want to throw it all. They didn't trust him to throw the ball. He was strictly a running guy. And then fast forward to his senior year, I mean, wow, what an improvement that guy made over 4 years with his throwing game. We don't know what Hedberg would have done over 4 years with Trey Lance, but boy, for taking him from 1 year, that was pretty impressive stuff. Taking him from his Marshall High School days to what he did in 2019. You look at this high school tape, Dom, and some of those things, he doesn't throw the greatest ball. I get why the Gophers weren't, totally in love with him, because I thought his throwing motion looked a little short and just really wasn't a college caliber finished product. But man, the NDSU took that and did something with it.
Well, it's interesting. I was visiting with Hedberg as well last night, and he told me, ironically, it was Easton Stick who tipped him off on I think it was a San Diego sports radio call-in, that he's hearing that Trey Lance was a first-round draft projection. This was in February of 2020, and that was the first time that Hedberg had heard that, literally a month after they're celebrating the national championship win over James Madison. And as we know, nothing was the same after that. And now it's on to the NFL. And ironically, he's going to a team which has a Walter Payton winner on it, obviously, in Jimmy Garoppolo. And that, we're going to, obviously the next few months are going to be left speculating what's going to happen there. But to your point, seems Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers coach, was adamant this was the guy they wanted all along, which just goes to the point of all this draft speculation is just junk for 3 months.
Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe they thought maybe Lance could move up to number 2 if word got out that they were that.
It's funny you say that, because I think the 49ers wanted to move up to 2, and the Jets didn't want to trade because I think they wanted Wilson. They didn't want to move off that spot, from what I gather.
Oh, poor Wilson, man. Oh boy,
We'll see.
it was a promising career. It's already over. I feel bad for the man. Do you like that pick?
I am indifferent on the pick right now. I watched 2 games live, the BYU Coastal game, and I wasn't impressed. I went back and watched a couple more this spring, and he's good. I mean, I hate the constant comparison that he throws like Mahomes, because nobody does like that. But he's got an arm; he can wing it. There's no doubt on that.
All right, I'll trust you.
We'll see.
You know, I just hope for your mental sake, your mental health. I just kind of wish that the Jets would give you a little hope.
Yeah, well,
one of these years.
I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Watching last night, did you have the same feeling as you did when we were in Chicago? I thought it was different just because we didn't know. We knew that Philadelphia was taking Carson Wentz at number 2.
Right. And, you know, McFeely, he got to attend the draft about 10 minutes longer than I did. So he's got that going for him. I was, and I've said on this podcast before, that was a interesting reality for me when I was covering it, that I sat down and I got there plenty early and got to know some other writer. I can't remember where he's from. And we were chatting it up a little bit. Draft starts and, you know, Goff goes 1 and then Wentz is announced. I'm going, well, nice. I'm out of here. Got to go do the interviews now. So I got to sit down, you know, and watch the draft for like 15 minutes. just kind of a weird thing, but it kind of felt the same to me, I guess. You know, just watching it, that the pomp and circumstance of it all. You know, Roger. Hey, can somebody get Roger Goodell a teleprompter? Instead of reading off these stupid cards and he fumbles it every time. How much is a teleprompter, Dom, in the business?
Oh, they're not that bad. I think they love the old school part of the card. That's gone back for 30 some odd years. Even when Pete Rozelle was the commissioner, of reading off a card. I don't think they're gonna.
But I'm saying that. I'm saying when he's doing the benefits and the
sponsorship stuff. Yeah.
Yep, all that stuff.
Yeah,
it just looked awkward.
I just say this: he got most of the names right. I just remember last year he couldn't get Tua's name right at all. He butchered that.
Oh God, yeah.
He got everybody's name right, so at least we'll give
him a break. He makes $40 million a year. Yeah. Come on, cut him some slack.
So what do you think here before we get on to the football games this weekend? Is Trey Lance playing in San Francisco this fall?
No, I think hasn't that already been established that Garoppolo is going to be the guy?
Well, they said that, but you know how believe that if you want to.
Well, he's got to be at least the guy to start. And if he continues to do well and doesn't get hurt, which is a 50-50 deal.
That's a deal with him. He is constantly hurt. There's no doubt.
So I think Garoppolo's got to play well. Just he knows this is probably his last year. And if he wants to continue in the league, he's got to produce. And so I think there's some motivation there. I would expect that he would start. And as long as he's producing and playing well, that he'll be the guy. I just don't. Trey's 20 years old, and everybody will tell you that he hasn't had the experience that you probably want in a quarterback coming into that level. You got to remember he played behind an FBS offensive line and a high-end Don FBS offensive line. Yep. Did I just call you Don?
It's fine.
I've only known you for 15 years.
One of the better things you can call me. That's all right.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at that line with Zach Johnson and Radence and Cordell Volson, Schoening, Nash Jansen. I mean, that was a Big Ten offensive line and a pretty good one at that. So he really didn't get the pressure, I think, that a lot of these quarterbacks have gotten experience with at the college level. He's going to have to get experience.
I will say he's going to go to a team, though, that runs an offense very similar to North Dakota State. They have a fullback. They've got a really good running back. They have a heck of a tight end in George Kittle. They got some good receiver. I mean, this is if there's an offense to go to, Kolpack, it's San Francisco, because they still use a lot of and they're under center, much like North Dakota State is.
Yeah, and that's a positive, and that's not going to freak Trey out whatsoever. Did you see where I think NDSU football posted to Twitter some video that they said we couldn't put this out right away? It was of Lance giving a bear hug to Shanahan. Did you see that?
Yes.
Well, I'm going. I don't think that they all do that. They all bear hug each other. Heck, when Lance got to Goodell, he hugged him so hard it was like Lance was in the desert for 3 days without water.
How about though?
Goodell was the first guy he saw.
How about though the actual emotion? I know Mike and Eric talked about that last night, that we have not seen that even when after the national championship, after the announcement of the Peyton, that he was overcome last night. It's the first time we've actually seen that.
Well, I'd be overcome emotion if I had 33 million in front of me too. After that, no, just kidding. I think it was probably the exhale of breath,
the weight of it
from since October. I mean,
yes.
that's a long road. Usually these quarterbacks go through their season in the fall, then they go to an all-star game and it's pretty quick, relatively speaking. Trey's been doing this since October.
Yep.
I mean, that's a long time for evaluations and interviews and camps and going to Quincy Avery and then going out to California. I just think it was a combination of all that. And who's to blame him? I mean, now the work starts. Enjoy this, because how are the NFL fans in San Francisco? I really don't know.
I think they are.
It's not Philly, at least.
I mean, and obviously they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I mean, this is a team that's not a bad football team. They are good. So I think they are, from what you gather, they're excited that who they got, and knowing that they may not be that far away from being really good again soon.
Yeah, and that's a good sign. He's not going to a perennial losing franchise, and there's a lot of built-in factors with that. Just confidence. I mean, it's the 49ers. You walk into their locker room, their complex, and it's the 49ers, or it's the Patriots.
6 Super Bowls there, right? I mean,
it's not some of these other sorry franchises that we will rename nameless, but.
The Kolpack and Izzo podcast rolling here, sponsored by Gate City Bank. We have FCS football actually happening this weekend, which is all on Sunday because of the draft. The FCS decided with ESPN to move all the games to Sunday, and lo and behold, the Bison are playing on ESPN Sunday afternoon in Huntsville. And you may have known this. I didn't after I got all the media releases. They prefer to be known as Sam Houston now. Did you know that?
Yes, it was made. I've known that in the last week.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I found out.
Yeah.
I did not know that prior.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty typical in college athletics these days. I mean, it's Omaha. It's not Nebraska, Omaha.
It's Kansas City now. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, it's not Missouri, Kansas City. No, don't call me UMKC anymore.
Fort Wayne,
God dang it.
Right? It's Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne
or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did not know that. So it's Sam Houston at North Dakota State. And also, Kolpack, I know you were looking through the research this week. Bearcats have not been to the playoffs since the last time they played the Bison. They missed the playoffs the last 2 years. They're unbeaten. Casey Keeler says that they're improved, that they're bigger up front. What do you make of this game on Sunday afternoon?
That's where the game is going to be at. You just said it right there. It's Sam Houston's run defense. They've historically been pretty bad at it. Casey Keeler was pretty confident coming out on his press conferences, but he's always been that guy, right? He's always been the Delaware East Coast guy. He's always been a confident gentleman, but he came out and he put it out there that he's 28-0 at home in the playoffs at 3 different schools. He hasn't lost at home in the playoffs. 28-0. So I heard that a couple times. And yeah, so that what he did is after the 2017 beatdown at the Dome, a 55-13 NDSU win, they went back to the drawing board at Sam Houston and retooled their team and literally rebuilt their team. And he goes, and we did it. We rebuilt our team to play North Dakota State, to play James Madison. He goes, we don't go up tempo anymore. We're not a high tempo offense, because he said those offenses don't bother those teams. Right. That doesn't phase them. So he said, we slow our offense down. We want to look more like them, which is good plan.
Yeah.
If you want to look like James Madison, North Dakota State, you got to build your roster like that. Got bigger guys. We'll see how good they are, but he's definitely got bigger guys in the interior. It's still going to come down to, I haven't seen a Southland team really handle a Bison offensive line yet.
Frankly, I'd say a Missouri Valley team.
In 11 years, yeah.
Go back to 2017 year, Strebler's senior year. Remember, South Dakota pushed Sam Houston around. They outscored them. I think it was 52-42, but South Dakota nearly went down there and won. So I understand his bravado on that, but I'll take that with a grain of salt. He also told me that they are not they're down a couple of their offensive linemen. So they're not where they want to be up front. And that's an interesting point because we mentioned the NDSU defensive line, how great they were against Northern Iowa. Then they took a step back against South Dakota State. They were back in the final three quarters, I thought, against Eastern Washington last week. And now they're facing a quarterback, and Matt N said it, that's not nearly as mobile as Eric Berrier is.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't say not nearly. He's not bad. He's a second leading
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying Berrier, I mean, that's obviously a finalist for the Peyton. So they're taking a step back, I think, in terms of who they're playing.
Yeah, maybe so. I looked back at Jake Rock going into the starting lineup, 6'8",
Yep,
310, something like that. And he doesn't look fat at all. My God, he looks.
He's a pretty trim 6'8" is right.
Yeah, he's a tight end looking 300 pounds is what he is. It'll be interesting next fall when Gray Zabel comes back and Cordell's coming back, what they're going to do, with their offensive line. The more the merrier. I mean, you need guys. You just can't have 5. You need 7, 8, 9. So maybe they'll rotate more.
Is it as simple as, I guess what you're saying, if the Bison are going to, if they run the ball like they did against Eastern, which was much like we saw against UND, that they win this game?
It's as simple as that. Absolutely. It's going to come down to not letting Sam Houston get big plays. Their receiver, what is Jaquez?
Yes.
Yeah, he's averaging 30 yards of reception, Don, off 21 receptions. 30. Ezard is his name. Jaquez Ezard. 30 yards of reception. I mean, that's some big plays. They've had 31 plays of 30 yards or more in 7 games. That's a lot. So the NDSU is going to have to. This is where you miss Josh Hayes again. And Eubanks is going to have to play like an upperclassman.
He has, though, don't you think? I think he's played really well. Courtney Eubanks.
He's coming on. Yep. He's coming on. Destin Talbert's got to be solid. He's had his moments over his career of a couple letdowns here and there. They can't be giving up the 40-yard plays, once a quarter. And so in the running game, I mean, Lupke's 245 pounds. You don't see that in the cell phone.
I think your guy is the key, is Jalen Bussey being back. And man, he broke a few last week. He's a change-up back.
Yeah, he's a neat kid, isn't he? God,
yes.
What a neat kid.
I
like that sometime when this pandemic stuff is over and we can sit down with kids and do a real, just a one-on-one interview. I just think he's got a lot of character and a lot. He's just a funny guy to me. And I just, man.
His parents are engineers, so I mean, he knows he's got his head on straight, no doubt.
Yep. Yeah. I just want to do his story, and I bet here's a kid 5'5" and probably been looked down his entire life and undervalued his entire life because he's 5'5", and so I'd like to get into the emotion of what it was like him in such a talent-rich area to grow up so undersized and yet still be a Division I player.
Cam Miller on the road. I think the last 2 weeks, Jeff, he's played. It's not been the Bison quarterback play that has struggled. I think he's looked really sharp, frankly.
Yeah, and that's what you need. You don't need him to be Trey Lance in this, because he's not, for one, and two, just be solid. Don't turn the ball over. Don't make the catastrophic pick six interception. Stuff like that. And you're asking a true freshman to do that, which isn't the easiest, but I think he's the son of a high school head coach. He's a smart guy. He knows football. So I would expect that he would play. I don't think the road will freak him out on Sunday. I
know you have written about this, and the temperature, the forecast looked like it's going to stay pretty much what we thought. What do you make of this, and how big a deal? I know the Bison got outside earlier this week, and I don't know how much you can account for it in 4 days. Right now, it looks like 85, the forecast for Huntsville on Sunday.
Well, today there's a flash flood warning. So I don't know. Do we need to land in a boat, or are we going to be able to get around there? I don't know. That's why the NDSU running game's got to be good, because you can't go 3 and out and leave your defense out there all day, because it's going to be a factor. Logan McCormick said that earlier this week. He expects it to be a factor, but NDSU will rotate 8, 9, 10 guys at the line of scrimmage, right. But that doesn't help your linebackers either. And so the running game is going to be huge. If the Bison keep the ball, and remember, like at Southern Illinois, where they had so many 3 and outs on offense.
Yep.
And after a while, the defense, even in 52-degree weather, just wore out.
I'll go on the flip side. Monmouth, Jeff, ran 92 plays last week. I mean, they dominated that football game. If NDSU gets anywhere, in the high 60s range, this game's over.
Yeah, yeah. And probably 45 of those would be running plays.
Yes, correct. That's the mode for them to win this game. It's Sam Houston. I've said it before on this show and on Hot Mic. They got to show it to me. Maybe they'll happen down there. They've always had to come up to Fargo ever since 2009. They've had to play up at the Dome. I don't know how much home field will be a factor, but they got to show it to me before I'm ready to fully hop on the boat with the Bearcats.
I'm 100% with you on that, and that's going to be the genesis of my pick on Sunday. That until I see it from the Southland in the line of scrimmage, then maybe I'll change my mind.
Yep. Let's chat about the other games briefly here before we wrap up. Jacksonville State, Delaware is the other game that's going in the afternoon at 2:00 on Sunday. What do we make of that? Does Delaware have a chance to go on the road and win at Jack State?
Yeah, absolutely. Jack State's another one of those teams that when they've been pretty good in the Ohio Valleys of the world, and that level of competition. CAA and Missouri Valley just are a different level of linemen, and I'm not sure how Delaware is up front. I haven't really paid that close attention.
You know what? They have that quarterback though. Nolan Henderson is the guy who came in relief of Kehoe last year and he was the guy who actually moved the ball for Delaware against the Bison, and they've got something there. They struggled with Sacred Heart, but they got something.
He's got some giddy up too. He does. I mean, I remember he could move when he played against the Bison. And Jacksonville at home is good, but that's another thing. Like you said with Sam Houston, until they prove it time and time again against the CAA in the Valley, then you could probably take them another step seriously.
The late game, and it is late, 8:00 Central Time, 9:00 Eastern, SIU and South Dakota State, which is a rematch of a game played in mid-March. The Jacks won by 40. How does SIU, can they keep it close? Can they win this game?
Yeah, they can win this game. They got a little edge going in the last month.
They do.
With their head coach putting it out on Twitter that we play and we're going to play, and their athletic director getting in on the action, and the team going out to Weber and did you see that celebration after the game, man?
I did.
That was like an FCS title. They were pumped. They're coming in with a lot of spit and vinegar. I mean, they are and it's a rematch. South Dakota State better play well because there's something about the Salukis right now.
They got some momentum. I'm with you there. Yep. Absolutely. I'm curious on that. The Jacks, they took care of business with Holy Cross, and now never in a rematch does it go as well as the first time. I think we've always seen that before, whether it's a blowout the first time or it's a close game the first time and a blowout the second. Sometimes that second time you're playing in the season, it just goes differently.
But the real intriguing game to me is the one out in Harrisonburg.
Yeah, I was just going to lead into that. That's at 5:00 on ESPN2 is UND and James Madison. The last time I looked at the line, it's JMU barely as a favorite. What do you make of that?
I think UND. What UND needs to do, Dom, is Otis Weah needs 25 touches, 25 to 30. And if they can get Otis the ball that many times, that means he's being pretty productive. And I still think he's the best back in the country in FCS. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it.
The one vote for Walter Payton was from mine, by the way. I voted him in first place for the Payton. Yep.
Yeah. So you're on board with me.
Yep.
That if they can get the ball to him 25, 30 times, and they haven't used him like that yet, I think for a reason. They haven't gone to him that much because why? I mean, why beat the guy up until you absolutely have to? Well, similar to what Trey Lance and how NDSU used him against JMU in 2019 when they ran him 30 times.
It's funny you say that because I think people were saying, why didn't they use him more against the Bison when that game maybe got out of hand? Maybe not that they're necessarily saving him for a game like this, but you know what? He had way less pounding on him in that game. Granted, as you mentioned also, UND was off for 5 weeks. He's fresh and ready to go for Sunday.
No, I would say, saving him for a game like this. I think that's exactly right. That's exactly right. What did he have? 3-4 carries in the second half?
Yeah, it was not a lot. Nope.
So yeah, if they can, that's the key there. That's a pretty simple matchup for me, especially with Belquist out, and Schuster's passing game is pretty vanilla, but effective, but vanilla. So it's
Right
going to
now,
have to be Otis.
The line is 3. James Madison is a 3-point favorite. So that's almost a pick 'em game right there.
Yep.
I am really curious. I'm right there with you on that game, how that's going to play out. I'll say this right now without giving away too many picks. I'm going to say 2 home teams win, 2 road teams win on Sunday. What do you think? Still there?
I don't know what I did.
I just said before, I said, I think 2 home teams, 2 road teams win. What do you think?
I think you're onto something there. And maybe we'll discuss further in the pregame show on inform.com on Sunday. But I think I know which 2 you're leaning to here.
It's going to be great. Looking forward to it. We're going to hit the air on noon on Sunday at inform.com with our Bison pregame show. Our live blog comes up about 1:30 for kickoff at 2 for the game down in Huntsville with North Dakota State and Sam Houston. Will be down in Huntsville actually starting tomorrow night. So you can look for stuff at inform.com on that. We'll have a scene setter down there to get ready for the trip a couple rounds early to Texas. We're usually going to Texas in the championship, not in the quarterfinals. So this will be different.
And Dom, I'm doing some research on the Derby. So hit me up later in the day and I'll tell you the winner.
All right, there he is. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank. All right, brother. Thanks, man.
All right. You can edit that out, right?
Yep, I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
So.
Dang it. I almost made it through. Okay.
I'll catch you tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep.